Today's lesson might be the most important one I have done to date because the concept of leverage is the most important thing that you need to understand as a sales rep and especially as an appointment setter. Now, what leverage means differs on the context. Like as a word, leverage has a bunch of different meanings, but in the context of sales specifically, it is the degree to which you can influence a prospect's final decision or final actions, okay? Now, this can be done through many different things. Essentially, you need to have control over a resource that they want, information that they want, and the more urgent or important that it is for them, the more leverage you have over them, right? And so this can be built through many different ways. In setting, for example, uncovering goals and pain points. Then there are things like branding, personal branding that help leverage a lot. Building trust, rapport, things like that, things of that nature that help you build leverage over a prospect. And so today we're going to be talking about how to do that in appointment setting specifically, right? For every single position, building leverage is going to be different. For example, a closer building leverage is going to look a lot different from a setter building leverage in practice. However, the concept is the exact same. So this will make more sense as we go on. Now, in setting, the three main ways, now these aren't the only ways. For example, in DM setting, it's very important to have a good looking account or brand when you message people. That is a really good way you can build leverage. However, the three main parts are through finding out about goals, pain points, and urgency, okay? So, goals is the most straightforward. What are your goals? What are your goals for Q1? What are your goals for next month? What are your goals with your business, right? Very easy questions to ask. And business owners, or in the B2B space at least, people are typically very open about their goals, right? Even in the B2C space. Now, where it gets a bit more difficult is in the second one. Now, pain points are very important. If you can get a pain point out of a prospect during a conversation, then that gives you a lot of leverage. So pay attention to any goals and pain points that they might give you, okay? So pain points are, for example, or typically found when you ask about how they want to achieve their goal. It's like, oh, your goal is, to get 10K a month. Okay, and so how come you haven't been able to get that yet? Or how do you plan on getting there? Right? And then once they start explaining that, then you'll be able to find out about their pain points. Maybe they'll say something like, man, I don't really have the right systems in my business to scale that way. And then boom, that's where you get the leverage, right? And so the last one, now might be the most difficult one to get. In inbound, this is very easy to find. However, in outbound, you typically might not be able to build urgency, but urgency is simply why do you need this now? Do you need this now? Okay, so why not put this off for later is a typical question that can help build urgency. It's like, well, why would I not put it off for later? For example, I don't know, if you're selling B2B, I feel like if I don't get the right systems in my business, I'm gonna go underwater in Q1, for example, things of that nature. Of course, this is very hard to pull out of prospects. However, this does absolutely help, right? And so the thing is, your goal as a setter is to build this leverage. And one way you can do it is through, put it this way, when you're setting, it's like you're a football player running down the field. Now, there are players trying to stop you, but you have to look for openings here and there. And so, for example, someone tells you, my goal is to do this. Okay, now you might see an opening because you can ask about the question, or you can do this, but you're looking for openings so you can slip through and get to the final goal. Or imagine it in a racing context. I don't know, just sports ideas are coming to my mind right now. But look for openings where you can ask questions to find out about their goals, their pain points, and urgency, because these are the three biggest ways of actually building leverage. Now, finding these things is only half the story. How to actually use that leverage and understand it is also extremely important. Now, the main issue or thing that you need to know with leverage is that you need to understand the amount of leverage that you have to ask them for a certain action or to ask them for a certain bit of information. Okay, you cannot overstep the amount of leverage you have. Okay, so to put it simply, leverage for action is very easy to understand. If you have not built or if you have not gotten enough goals or pain points and built enough leverage through the conversation, then you cannot ask them to book a call because they won't. They do not have enough reason to do that, right? So you should ask yourself, why should they do this? Why should they do this action that I'm asking them to do, right? And you need to understand when you cannot, when asking for something is overstepping the amount of leverage that you have, okay? And so this is important to understand because in a lot of situations, especially in outbound context, you just might not have enough leverage to ask them for a call. So what you can do instead is ask them for permission for you to send them a free asset that you might have for them, right? Now, this is a very simple way of understanding leverage in the setting context. Most people understand it here, and that's where their understanding ends. However, there is another very important implication for leverage, and that is why, or you should ask yourself when asking questions, why should they give me this information, right? Think about this. This is another way that you can think about leverage or that you need to in setting. If you call someone and say, hey, what's your biggest pain point in your business? Given an announcement that the library is closing in 5 minutes. Doesn't matter. All right, so why should they even give you this information? You just asked them a very personal question. You do not have the leverage to ask them that. They do not know you. You have not built any rapport with them. And so you need to understand that certain questions are higher leverage than others, right? A very low leverage question that you can always ask is, what are your goals? What are your goals for this year? What are your goals for this quarter, this month, etc.? People are happy to share their goals. Pain points, not so much. And so even if you ask about pain points, for example, and you don't have enough leverage, they might give you an answer that just isn't sufficient at all, right? And so this kind of covers understanding leverage and how to use it when asking for actions and asking for information, okay? Now, there is a really big mistake that a lot of people use, or that a lot of people do in digging for leverage, digging for goals and pain points. Use their own words. Use their words, not yours, okay? Not your own. Because the thing is, if they tell you their goals and you say, or in your pitch, you then say, hey, well, if you're looking to get to this goal, then this is how you can do it. Let me help you out. Well, they are a lot less likely to oppose if it is their own words. If they said they want to hit 10K a month, don't say 1,200K a year, even though it's the exact same thing. Use the exact same words that they said. Okay, this is a topic that I covered in the mirroring video as well. Now, it's also important for you to get the exact words from the prospect, okay? If they give you a half-ass answer like, oh yeah, I just want more financial freedom, right? Like if you ask them for their goals, it's like, yeah, I just want money. Well, what does that mean? How much money? Like why do you need it? Things like that. Dig until you get the right leverage to pitch, okay? Now, of course, this is a balancing act. You need to be able to dig for enough leverage without overstepping the leverage that you have to even ask them a question. This is really the art of setting, or the art of finding this information. But the better that you get at this process of building leverage, the better you get as a setter. If you have any questions, you have my number. You know where to reach me. Motion.